Hello there and welcome friends. At long last, here is my Demon Mythic Path guide. I was actually surprised by how versatile the Demon Mythic is. It can actually support all sorts of characters from melee to ranged and even spellcasters. For this guide in particular, I'll be keeping mostly to the Demon Mythic Path powers, abilities, spells, demonic forms and so on. There's quite a lot to talk about, and the video is around 40 minutes as is. So I'll be talking about my demon build guides in separate videos, because I actually have 4 whole different demon builds for you. All of these guides will have full build progression, not only for the general levels but also the mythic. The reason I'm splitting the build is because this guide is long enough as is, but most importantly, my computer at the moment, well, it only has budget parts, so it's not really good. And when it comes to making and editing long videos, my video editing software slows down to a crawl if the video is longer than 25 minutes or so. It starts crashing by a lot, so it can be really troublesome for me to edit these long videos. Some of these builds that I will talk about later, a Demon Kineticist and a Demon Cavalier, are very special in that they deal a massive amount of damage, so I do think they deserve singular spots. So without further ado, let's get started and first talk about our Demon Mythic abilities. Later on, I'll cover the builds, and as usual everything here is timed, so you can just skip to whatever you want, whenever you want. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, so first let's talk about our special Demon Mythic Path abilities. So the Demon thematic first Ascension is Close to the Abyss. The main benefit is that you gain a gore attack for free. So if you are using any melee character, this basically gives you an extra attack per round, which can be very useful, especially if you have, let's say, sneak attack, because it does get applied to your gore attacks. And depending on how high your strength can be, this can also deal quite a lot of damage. So if you are going with a melee demon character, I would certainly recommend you keep Close to the Abyss. On the other hand, if you have a spellcaster demon or a ranged demon character, there isn't much of a point to picking this because, well, you need to be in melee range to use it. As usual, I would just go with Instrument of Freedom instead to empower our allies' attacks with holy damage. Alright, so at Mythic Rank 3, you first get your true demon powers. First we have Demonic Charge, which can be a very fun ability and also very unique. Demonic Charge lets you, as a move action, teleport to a target enemy. It doesn't really have to be an enemy, it can be any area, so long as you are in range. The range isn't that high, dealing 2d6 unholy damage per mythic range to all of the enemies nearby in a 10-foot range. You can only damage them once per round. This ability can be very fun. Even outside of battle you can use it to move around, let's see. Just like this, you can keep spamming it. But during battle, it will cost you a move action. The issue with this is that, well,
battles await.
For characters that have a lot of attacks, like, well, any melee character past level 6 or so, if you use Demonic Charge, you will not be able to full attack. That is, you will only be able to attack once per round. This isn't really a problem for characters, let's say, that have Vital Strike, because they are only going to attack once anyways. But for other characters, it can mean quite a lot of attacks lost per round. This is why I prefer to use this basically for Vital Strike characters, and also only if you truly need to get to where the enemy is. Let's say Camellia is an enemy here and she's blocked away by all other sorts of enemies. Because we can't get to her normally, we can use Demonic Charge instead to close the range and attack her right after that, which is good for, let's say, ranged or spellcasting enemies. But remember, you will be limited to just a single attack on the round that you use Demonic Charge. Also, it's important to note that Demonic Charge, that is, isn't really a charge ability as far as the normal charge. So abilities like Mythic Charge and Pounce will not affect Demonic Charge. It's different. Second, we have Demonic Claws, which basically lets you grow claws at will for true claw attacks. It does help if you want a character focused on natural attacks, but if you are a shapeshifter, these aren't really going to matter. Or if you have a Scald, they don't really matter because the Scald already has Beast Totem to give all of your party members claw attacks instead of just your demon character. And they can actually do more damage than the Demonic Claws even. Third, we have our Demonic Rage ability, which is, well, pretty much a truly unique ability of Demon Path. As a free action, you can enter a rage during battle that lasts until the end of combat, and while under rage, you gain a +2 bonus to attack rolls, damage rolls, character level checks, and even reflex saving throws, with also an increase to the difficulty class of all of your spells and abilities. And this benefit will increase by 1 at Mythic rank 6 and 9, so overall a very powerful ability. that also gains an increase in uses, starts at 3 times per day, and then increases to 4 at Mythic 6 and 5 at Mythic 9 at last. Almost all of your demon abilities, the aspects of demons at least, have main effects that require demonic rage to be on, so be sure to always cast it whenever faced with tough battles, as the benefits are certainly very powerful. Alright, so let's get now into the meat of the demon mythic powers, the demonic aspects, which will further enhance your demonic rage. Turning your demonic aspect rage abilities is very simple. All you have to do is select the ones you want to use here in your abilities tab. The ones you want to use will have this square icon. At Mythic rank 5 you get to use 2 of the minor aspects, and then yet another at Mythic rank 8, so that's 3 minor aspects, 1 major aspect, and I do believe you actually benefit from all of the demonic lord aspects you picked. So for example, my character here has both Nocticula and also Arashkagao at the same time, whenever he rages. First we have the aspect of Babao. You gain a permanent boost to some of your skills just by picking this, and this is the same for all of the aspects. They do have an effect that increases your skills, as you can see here, and this effect is actually permanent. You don't have to turn the aspects on. By just picking them, you always gain the skill boost, even outside of Demonic Rage. But for Babao, you gain an increase in your sneak attack damage by 2d6 whenever raging. And this is the same for the secondary effects. You do need to be raging for all of the secondary effects to take place. Also, any creature that strikes you, this doesn't matter really. They will take 2d6 acid damage and this will increase, but most of the demons you face do have acid resistance, at least some amount of it. The main benefit is the extra sneak attack damage, which can help if you are of course a class that is focused on sneak attacks, but overall I do think this is one of the weakest of the lower demonic aspects. The second is the aspect of Brimorak. So enemies that attack you with a non-reach weapon will take 2d6 fire damage, that also increases. Just like the aspect of Babao, this is somewhat worthless. The other benefit can be useful. It can increase the damage of your spells by an extra plus 2 points per die rolled, which will increase by 1 at level 6 and level 9, so up to plus 4 damage per die rolled. This can add up, and if you are a spellcaster focused on damaging spells like the infamous Hellfire Ray, you will be able to get quite a lot of bonus damage from this. Still, it does have a somewhat niche use, as I do prefer demon casters focused on difficulty class spells. After all, why bother with damage if you can just instantly kill them with one spell? So third we have the aspect of Incubus. It's actually a very versatile aspect because it helps both spellcasters and also ranged and melee damage dealers. Whenever you cast a spell under Rage, you actually increase the difficulty class by 1, with extra increases at levels 6 and 9, which is great. Second, you also gain a plus 4 bonus to weapon damage rolls, and this also increases further. It's a very powerful aspect. I mean, if you are a spellcaster you want it because of the increase to the difficulty class, and if you are a melee or ranged character you want it because of the bonus to the damage rolls. So overall a very solid choice. Now we have the extremely cheesy aspect of Kalavakus. To start, it grants you a bonus to combat maneuver defense and your combat maneuver bonus, and also natural armor class, and this is a stacking source of natural armor class, so we'll stack with for example bark skin or amulets of natural armor. Now this bonus by itself is already great if you have characters focused on combat maneuver, such as characters that use strip for example. The true power of this aspect, however, lies in the secondary effect. Whenever you succeed at a combat maneuver check during Demon Rage, you can make an attack against the target as a free action. Do note that free actions are actually unlimited. You can make an infinite amount of free actions per round. Also, whenever you hit the enemy with a charge attack, you can also attempt to disarm them as a free action. And because disarming is a combat maneuver, if you charge at the enemy while under aspect of Kalavakus, you will attempt to disarm them and immediately gain a free attack on them because of the combat maneuver that you just did. If you've watched my guide on how to defeat the Skari as a demon character, then you might have noticed my Marilith character, because of the Pounce ability that lets you do all of your attacks as part of a charge action, so your full attacks, actually got more than 10 extra attacks for free against the Skari. Because we charged, hit the Skari for more than 10 attacks, each of these attacks procced a disarm attempt, and each of the disarm attempts procced a free attack as a free action, so talk about crazy. This is why it's so great for Cavalier characters too, who also are focused on charging at the enemy. and it is why I have chosen a Cavalier character for one of my demon builds. Now the power of Kalavakus doesn't just stop there, it also has an insane synergy with the Kineticist class. Kineticist can gain an ability called Bowling Infusion, and another called Pushing Infusion that lets you perform either a combat maneuver, bow rush, or a trip attack whenever you hit the enemy with your blast, and you can further empower some of your area of effect abilities with these. And because with the aspect of Kalavakus we gain a free attack whenever we use a combat maneuver, well, let's just say you hit the enemy with your blast and you can hit a multiple amount of them with area of effect abilities. You then proc 2 combat maneuvers from Bowling and Pushing Infusion, and you then get 2 free attacks against all of the enemies that you hit. So talk about a crazy amount of extra damage that you'll get. Overall, aspect of Kalavakus is simply crazy. And honestly, probably the best of all of the lower demonic aspects if you have a class focused on charging or a kineticist. And because charge is something that every character can do, at least melee characters, it has amazing synergy. We also have the aspect of Nabasu now. The main benefit is increasing our saving throws, which is great, but not really that needed. Second, you also have an aura debuff that reduces the enemy's attack rolls and fortitude saving throws by -1, with increases at 6 and 9. This can actually be amazing for difficulty class characters, especially characters focused on instant death spells. The spell Phantasmal Killer and Weird, for example, they have both fortitude and will saving throws, so this can be a further way of reducing their saving throws so you can instantly kill them with ease. But it is mostly an aspect focused on spellcasters. We also have the aspect of Sheer. By default it grants you a normal bonus on melee attack rolls, which is great for easier chances of hitting the enemy. Whenever you charge, you also gain the powerful charge ability, so it does increase the damage of your charge by quite a lot. Combine this with the aspect of the Kalavakus for a Cavalier character or any other character focused on charging, and you will highly increase your damage. For another aspect we have the Succubus, and this is another one of the best aspects in the game. By default it gives you another debuff aura that reduces the enemy's will saving throws and also their attack rolls, while also increasing the attack rolls and saving throws of your allies, which is great. But the most powerful effect is actually giving your entire party immunity to compulsion and fear effects. Compulsion effects can be very annoying, like Charm and Dominate, but most importantly the confusion spell that some demons love spamming on you is also compulsion, and this will outright block it, so perfect for hard and unfair, where enemies have a lot higher difficulty class on their spells and abilities. This is a great aspect to have overall, as soon as you get it at Mythic Rank 4. Lastly we have the aspect of Rock, which is the main aspect for ranged characters like archers. It does grant you a bonus to your ranged attack rolls, and also reduces the enemy's reflex by a -1, increasing at level 6 and 9, which can be great for damaged spellcasters who have spells that often need to pass a reflex saving throw first. I suppose a secondary neat effect is that it also makes all of your spells count as reach spells, so for the touch spells for example, you will be able to use those spells from far away without the danger of proccing an attack of opportunity from an enemy. But overall, as far as all of the lower demonic aspects, my favorite ones are certainly Kalavakus, because of how crazy the synergy it is with some classes and abilities, Succubus for immunity to compulsion and fear, and then Succubus for immunity to compulsion and fear. But if you are a difficulty class caster, then you probably want aspect of Incubus as well. Now at Mythic Rank 5 is honestly when I think our demon character becomes really powerful, because it's when we get our first two major demonic aspects. So let's give a look. The first one is aspect of Balor, and it's also one of the best ones. Just like with the normal demonic aspects, you do have a primary benefit, so the first one here, that is added to your character even if you don't have this aspect on during demonic rage. Balor, for example, gives you a bonus to Constitution, Vavaki a bonus to Strength, and the other a few different bonuses. The main power of Balor, however, is that it lets you share your normal demonic rage ability, so all of the increases here. It doesn't let you share demonic aspects, only the normal rage abilities, which are pretty good as well, especially because they do scale, with every single one of your party members, so whenever you turn your demonic rage, all of your allies will also benefit from these bonuses, so long as you have aspect of Balor turned on. Overall, because of this, it's probably the best of the major demonic aspects as a whole. It's simply very efficient and very stacked. Second, we have aspect of Colossus, and this is the one focused on difficulty class spellcasters, especially intelligence-based ones like wizards. It gives you an intelligence boost, so always powerful to further increase your difficulty class, and also lets you cast all of your spells as a move action through Demonic Rage. This can be great because it does let you cast twice per round, one spell as a move action and another spell as a standard action, so you won't need to use Quicken Meta Magic Rods or Defeat. We also have Aspect of Almox, which is kinda one of the weakest ones. It does grant you damage resistance, but at this point it doesn't matter, we can just cast Stone Skin or something like it. And also lets your attacks make the target grappled unless they pass a reflex saving throw. It's kinda weak really. Aspect of the Shadow Demon can be very powerful. It grants you a bonus to Wisdom, so perfect if you are, let's say, a monk or a cleric, any other class that benefits from high wisdom. But it also makes you incorporeal during Demonic Rage, and you might not know this, but incorporeal is one of the best properties in the game. It even reduces the damage you take from most sources by half, including elemental sources and so on. Honestly, it's a very powerful property, and if you want to be tanky, you should certainly consider picking the Aspect of Shadow Demon. As far as Aspect of Rolikai, it gives you fast healing equal to half your mythic rank, +1, doesn't really matter. By this point we can just heal through all other sources like Channel Energy or the heal spell, and thus make all of your attacks and spells apply one negative level on enemies, assuming they fail the saving throw, the will saving throw of 15 plus twice your mythic rank, that's up to 35 at max rank. And it does apply on every single one of your melee attacks, so great for, let's say, a dual wielder, or any character that has a massive amount of attacks per round, but I would much rather go with Balor. Lastly, we have the Aspect of Avakia, which is another great aspect, if only because of the permanent strength bonus it gives to your demon character. The secondary effect doesn't really matter, it basically gives you a damage aura, but the damage isn't really that good. Overall, the best major demonic aspects are certainly Balor, for sharing your normal rage with your allies, the Constitution bonus, also Vavakia for the strength boost, and Shadow Demon for the incorporeal property. At last, at Mythic rank 10, we actually get our final Demon Lord aspect. Now I know that as far as the patch 1.2, which is in beta at the moment, the reason I'm not using this for this video is that it really destroyed my game performance. The battles became slideshows, that's how slow they were on the beta patch, so I reverted to the normal patch. But it doesn't really matter for Demon, because as far as I'm aware, the only difference that patch 1.2 is going to bring into the game is that instead of gaining 2 Demon Lord aspects at level 10, you will now gain one at level 9 and the other at level 10. This really doesn't matter because a demon character is special in that they are the only Mythic Path, as far as I'm aware, that can actually gain their Mythic 9 and 10 at the same time during their Chapter 5 Mythic Quest, that you can do as soon as Chapter 5 starts, and I already have a guide from it, which is my Nocticula guide here to the side and down below. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's talk about our Demon Lord aspects, and they can be very powerful. The first is Aspect of the Scary. It turns all of your energy damage into unholy, kinda useless. You already gain a meta magic rod called Devouring Lust that can do this for free as soon as Chapter 3, so who cares. And lets your physical damage ignore physical damage reduction, also useless, so sorry the Scary, but you are overall a very disappointing aspect. We can just use the Storyteller relic called Covenant of the Inheritor to bypass Demon's physical resistance. We also have Aspect of Cabriri, which lets us heal whenever we kill an enemy. Kinda situational really, because at this point in the game you can just cast Mass Heal for massive healing of Nocticula, and this one is actually amazing. It lets us share our demonic rage powers, all of them. It's not like Balor who only shares the normal rage. Nocticula will share the normal rage and also all of the aspects that we have on for the moment. So very powerful. With another character of our choice, even our pet, which is very fun. It doesn't cost anything to use. You can just enter Demonic Rage, which is also a free action, then share your rage with another character, also a free action, and then still perform all of your full actions for the round. Aspect of the Pazuzu now can be very good for melee and ranged characters because it does give you an extra attack that stacks with haste. Meanwhile, Aspect of Sokoth Benoth is amazing for spellcasters. Just like the AZATA Favored Magic mythic ability, it forces the enemies to save twice and take the worst result. Lastly, we have Aspect of Arashkagol, which can be very powerful for defense, by giving you a 50% staple chance, but honestly I don't see much of a point to it in the late game, where you can already stack defenses extremely high through other sources like abilities and spells. Overall, the best one is certainly Nocticula, And since we can pick 2 of them, well, either Sokovbanov if you are a spellcaster, or Pazuzu if you are a melee or ranged attacker. An interesting note about Demon is that once your transformation is complete, at Mythic level 9, so you gain the big wings and the way bigger horns, I think it's one of the coolest looks in the game as far as the Mythic Path transformations. It looks pretty cool. You also gain the very powerful Profane Invocation ability, and you can use this to buff either yourself or your own allies for a Profane boost as a Demonic Overlord. So you can give a +2 Profane to any ability score, and then another +2 Profane to another ability score of your choice. In my case, for example, I have Scylla here with +2 Profane to her Charisma, and Sociel with +2 to his Wisdom, to further empower Mark of Justice and Sociel's domain powers. But you can choose anyone to give this to. Alright, now let's talk about the unique Demon Mythic spells. Honestly, I didn't find most of them useful. There are some powerful self-buffs and some decent crowd control spells, I suppose, but you know, after going Lich and Angel, there's really just no comparison. Anyways, for level 1 we don't have anything unique or special. Enlarged Person here is the best of the spells because it's one of the best buffs in the game, and your demon character will be able to buff themselves with this. Level 2 is when you truly get your first unique demon spells. For all of the demon forms, I'm going to talk about them right after this section of this guide. Now, we have Blood Haze, which is honestly kinda useless. It is a swift action, so you can always cast it, and it tries to be like haste, but you know, just have someone cast the haste spell instead, because this haste with limitations, you need to keep on killing creatures in order to prolong the duration of this haste-like effect. You know, just cast haste. We also have Consume Fear. The bonus to persuasion checks to intimidate can be useful if you have a character focused on that. And you also get a minor healing effect based on the number of shaken or frightened enemies on every round, but honestly I would also skip the spell, I don't find it useful at all. Flames of the Abyss on the other hand is one of the best demon buffs. It doesn't have very high duration as it only empowers the next 2 attacks, +1 per 5 caster levels above 7, to do an additional 1d6 unholy damage per 2 caster levels. The more damage we have on our attacks, the better, so this can be useful, especially for tough encounters like bosses, because you can't really use this before every battle. The other spells are just common ones, but the main one here is Mirror Image, which is one of the best self-buffs in the whole game, and a demon character can certainly make use of it, especially melee or ranged demons who are not spellcasters and cannot cast Mirror Image otherwise. At level 3 we get Channel Rage. You can only cast it while under Demonic Rage, and as a standard action you can grant any target the effects of Demonic Rage for 1 round per caster level. Honestly, I would rather just use the aspect of Balor to share Demonic Rage, which has no cost because whenever you enter Rage you automatically apply the aspect of the Balor, so long as you have it on. Unlike Channel Rage, which does require standard action. We also have Morbid Restoration, which heals you based on every dead creature in a 30-foot radius. Also honestly somewhat useless because there's way better ways to heal your character, like Channel Positive Energy and later on Mass Heal. Chances are if you killed enough enemies for this spell to be effective, the enemies are mostly dead already, so what's the point? Thankfully at level 3 we also get Profane Hymn, which is one of the best debuffs in the game, and especially annoying when enemies use it on you. It's basically a version of Prayer, except it has twice the effects, so a -2 penalty on attack, damage rolls, caster level checks, concentration checks and all saving throws for all of the enemies in a very huge 40-foot radius area. The best part is that this spell is not affected by spell resistance, and it does not have a save at all, so it's one of the best debuffs in the game. As a demon spellcaster you can certainly use a Quicken Metamagic Rod, so that you cast this debuff and then proceed to cast your normal spell after that in the same round. Lastly we have Telekinetic Strike, which is truly the first of the demon damage spells. Just like the normal Lich Exsanguinate spell, it deals 1d6 damage per caster level, but because demons can only get 20 caster level unlike Liches, it does have a maximum of 20d6 damage. The best part is it also bypasses spell resistance and doesn't have a save, so can be a decent single target damage effect. Now the secondary effect does have a save, and if the enemy fail, they will become prone, which is great. Knockdown is one of the best status ailments, and then you can actually attempt to push them away or towards you with a combat maneuver check using your caster level instead of base attack bonus, and casting stat instead of strength, but honestly you're probably going to use this for damage. Even for a non-caster demon, because you gain your caster levels for free, As usual, you can use a Quicken Metamagic Rod to cast the spell, deal some damage, and then proceed with your full attacks. At level 4 we get Abyssal Chains. It has a neat effect of chaining to other enemies and attempting to entangle them and deal bludgeoning damage. The main issue is that this spell allows a save, both to half the damage and to ignore the entangling effect, so honestly very useless. You don't really want to bother with spells that have saving throws. Mythic spells that is, because there isn't much of a way of increasing this further. A demon character won't really be focused on evocation, illusion and conjuration are way better, and there's honestly way better spells to cast instead. Infectious Rage is another one of those spells that is very annoying when the enemies use it on you, but not really troublesome for the enemies. First, they will gain a bonus from your demonic rage, which is awful because it will highly increase their attack and damage. The main benefit is that it also makes them confused, so they will attack their own allies, the nearest target that is. The problem is there's no guarantee that the nearest target won't be a party member, so I wouldn't bother with this spell at all. And it also has a saving throws, so kinda disappointing. Demons also get a teleport spell, which, well, why bother, you know? You can just use Demonic Charge ability for the same effect, except you don't have to spend a spell slot for it. I suppose the difference is that Demonic Charge has somewhat low range, this teleport has very high range. Even then, why bother? We also have Abyssal Skin, which is basically the same as Stone Skin, except it's against Cold Iron and good instead of Adamantine. Honestly, just use Stone Skin instead. Lastly, we have Channel Rage Communal. I would honestly just use, you know, the aspect of Balor. Now we are at level 5, which is the last of the demon spells. First we have Abyssal Storm. It kinda tries to be like the big Lich and Angel damage spells, but it's kinda disappointing, because it does affect every single target in the big area, so will even affect your party members, dealing 1d6 points of electricity and unholy damage per caster level. So that's 20d6 electricity and 20d6 unholy damage. At the very least, it does not have a save and is not affected by spell resistance. But it's going to be troublesome to hit only the enemies with it instead of your own allies as well, because it is centered on your demon character. We also have the Devour spell, which is also somewhat disappointing, because it is a melee touch attack. At this point, your demon character will have instant death spells as a caster, or as a melee attacker will just be able to instantly delete the enemy with their attacks. There's not a point to using this. Life Bane is another great demon buff. You can actually buff any character with it, does only cost a swift action by default, so you can also cast this and then attack in the same round, and turns your weapon into a +5 Living Bane weapon for 1 round per mythic rank. Living Bane is very useful. It's an extra 2d6 damage against basically all targets in the game that aren't undead or constructs. It will actually even work on demons and all outsiders. For the last of the unique demon spells we have Telekinetic Burst, which is basically an area of effect version of Telekinetic Strike, so can be useful because it only hits enemies and deals irresistible damage that doesn't have a save. I would much rather use this instead of Abyssal Storm if you want. So let's talk about each of the demon forms now. The first one you get is Demonic Form 1, which comes at Mythic Rank 4. And you get to choose between Sheer, Babau, or Brimorak. So the Babau form gives you the Protective Slime ability, which is just basically an acid shield. Whenever enemies attack you, they take some acid damage. It doesn't really matter, because most of the demons resist acid. You also have main claw attacks, but you only have 5 attacks during Babau form, and this is even at the late game, so honestly, it's not really powerful. Besides it, we also have Brimorak form, which gives you Fire Breath and Flaming Weapon. Now the Brimoraks do come with a long sword, which can be quite good because you know it's a weapon that you can already enchant even in the early game. And you can also make use of it for, you know, later on having both Marilith and Balor. But it's still not a form I would prefer for the early game. We do have 7 attacks on Brimorak form, so that's higher than Babau. Certainly better. We actually killed our poor dog here. You do have a breath weapon, but it's only a line and, you know, it's not going to do much damage, although the difficulty class does increase. I mean, it's 37 now, which is the end game. Lastly, for the first forms, we have the best one, which is Sheer. Shears gain the powerful charge ability, and they also come equipped with a glaive, so that's another weapon. Powerful charge is very good. It's one of the reasons why pets like the elk deal such amazing damage when charging. And as usual, we certainly want to charge. So that's 7 attacks on Shear form, the same as the Grimorak form. Both are a lot better than the Babau. And we do get a lot of extra damage added because of powerful charge. Note that this is without the Demon Rage, which could increase it, you know, by a lot more. At Mythic rank 5 you get access to Demonic form 2. So now you can change into Derakini, Kalavakus or Nabasu. Let's try Derakini first. So a Derakini has the poison and drone abilities. Drone doesn't really have a high difficulty class, and it can actually hit your own party members, because it affects all non-demons. Honestly, you don't want to confuse your own party members, so I don't see you using this. It seems as if they only have one attack, but this here's a mistake. They actually have more than that, but not that many. They have 6 attacks at max level. Now note that these attacks are also being enhanced by my Scald, but as a demon you do have a gore attack, then 2 claw attacks, and you can also have another attack from haste. So you'll never just have one attack really. As far as the poison, we have 39 difficulty class here, which can be decent, but you know, all of the demon enemies that you fight in the game are immune to poison by default, so I don't really find any use for this as well. Now let's try the Kalavakus aspect. I often imagine them being bigger than this, they're kinda tiny. A Kalavakus also has the powerful charge ability, and they also gain more attacks because of their horns. Let's see how it goes. So they have 7 attacks as well, and the powerful charge ability for even more charge damage. Lastly we have Nabasu form. Nabasu is the coolest looking of them, for me at least, as far as the demonic forms too. But the ability he has is not really that useful, because the difficulty class isn't that high, and it's basically just a way of inflicting enemies with negative levels. But you know, negative levels are that kind of thing that it's very annoying when the enemies use it on you, but not really that troublesome when you use it on the enemies, because you tend to kill them a lot faster than the negative levels can add up. Still, I do think Nabasu looks pretty cool, and would be perfect in my opinion for, you know, an undead lich type of character, as far as the demon path, a necromancer demon that is. And as far as attacks, we have 6, which is not really the best. At Mythic rank 6, you can actually change into a Glabrezu, Vrock or Nafalshini by having Demonic form 3. Let's first start with Vrock. I also kinda like the look of the Vrocks, they have always been one of my favorite demons look-wise. But as a Vrock you really only gain the mirror image ability, which doesn't matter because, you know, you can just cast mirror image as a demon character. I suppose the good thing is that, as far as I'm aware, this mirror image has infinite uses, so it can be somewhat good defensive-wise. After all, mirror image is one of the best defensive buffs, and contrary to some popular belief, not many enemies in the game have true seeing, even late game enemies. So I imagine, if you want a very powerful defensive form for Demonic form 3, go with Vrock because of the infinite mirror images. And we do have 6 attacks in Vrock form. Now we also have the Nalfashini form. The classic fat pig form. I like the little wings. So the best thing about Nalfashini is that it has amazing strength. With Master Shapeshifter you gain plus 14 strength from Nalfashini. And as far as physical... Our poor wolf got killed again. And as far as physical attacks we also have 6, not really that good. But it is the form with the highest strength before the Balor form. Lastly we have the Glabrezu form. So we look just like one of those very annoying Glabrezu enemies that take the entire screen with their mirror image and massive size. we don't even, only our tail and legs basically appear here. So as a Glabrezu we get the Rend ability. I think the Bear Animal Companion also has Rend. It's basically just another way of dealing more damage with melee attacks. And that's also 6 attacks we have in this form. Now at Mythic rank 7 we get at last the ultimate demon forms, through demonic form for Balor, Vavakia, Galu or Marilith. As far as Galu, you actually attack with a falchion, which can be useful if you actually bother getting improved critical falchion, because falchions have a lot higher critical range than longswords, 15 to 20 instead of 18 to 20. And you also gain the unique Rain of Blood ability, which can be cool. Once per minute, a Galu can cause blood to rain on enemy creatures. The damage isn't really good, I mean it does look cool, let's see here. It actually rained bones instead of blood, I think, which is somewhat strange because I'm pretty sure some of the weather effects, one of them is a rain of blood. Anyways, the effects aren't really that useful. I suppose the staggered if the enemy fails the save can be decent, because staggered creatures can only take a standard action, they cannot full attack. Galus actually look pretty cool too, in a close-up. Still, because it has to compete with Marilith and Balor, I don't see much of a point to it. Now let's try the Vavakia form. Vavakias are probably one of the most annoying demons. We are also so big that we don't properly show on the character screen. On the other hand, I do think it's nice that a lot of these demon models are actually very neatly detailed. Unfortunately, we can't properly see them in game because of the camera that is always far away from the enemies. We do have high strength as well from Vavakia form, a trident weapon which is somewhat unique. The weapon is unholy too. And the main unique ability of Vavakia would be the breath. The problem is, it does have friendly fire. Let's see here. Yeah, and the damage isn't that good, I think. Same for Wisdom Drain. This is another one of those abilities that's very annoying when the enemies use on you, but don't really have that much of a point when you use it against the enemies. Last but not least, we have of course the best forms in the whole game, Balor and then Marilith. Let's start with Balor. Balor is actually the form with the highest physical stats overall, so 66 strength, 36 dexterity, 48 constitution with my character. But you can of course have even more, let's say, if you're going with a mutation warrior. I suppose you could also say another benefit of the Balor form is that, at least to me, it certainly looks the coolest out of all of the demons. It even has some pretty cool animations. Just like the Marilith, it does come equipped with a long sword and also a whip, which counts as a natural weapon in this case, because we can't really get whips as far as normal characters. And just for comparison, on Balor form he actually got 8 attacks total. Now the strongest of the demon forms is probably the Marilith. Notice all the extra arms we have, well, we can actually put them to great use. So the Marilith does have lower stats than the Balor, especially strength. On the other hand, that's 12 whole attacks we get, almost all of them are longsword hits. It's really hard to compete with this because, you know, more than 10 attacks per round is an insane amount, especially when you consider all of the extra free attacks we're getting because of Aspect of Kalavakus. Not to mention an extra attack missing from Pazuzu, Demon Lord Aspect, because we are outside of Demonic Rage. So Marilith, well, is probably going to win as far as the demon forms. But of course, I don't think she looks quite as cool as the Balor. Especially because the Mythic Demon portrait is basically a Balor, at least the male one. Still, because of Aspect of Kalavakus, you know, even though you have lower attacks with Balor, you have more than enough to delete any enemy with just a single charge or your normal attacks. As I've shown to you in my How to Defeat the Balor cRPG guide, I actually use a Balor demon there, I don't charge, and I'm still able to easily destroy cRPG on Unfair. Well, so this was it for the general part of my Demon Mythic guide, everyone, covering all of the abilities and so on. Stay tuned because, as I've said before, I'll soon be releasing all of the 4 different builds I have for my demon character. A Demon Slayer demon focused on shapeshifting into all of the powerful demonic forms, a difficulty class based demon spellcaster to easily crowd control and instantly kill your enemies, and also provide some very high single target damage, a demon kineticist who is able to deal the ultimate area of effect damage out of all of the characters in the game, and last but not least, my build that has so far the highest damage per round, a demon cavalier who is able to get eventually more than 40,000 damage per charge attack, that's right, 40,000 damage. Certainly enough to destroy everything in the game 10 times over. If you've enjoyed this guide, then please remember to support the channel if you can, friends, by liking it, becoming a member, and subscribing. Thank you for watching and see you next time.